Today is Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. Time is 7:00 p.m.
Yeah, like your speaker.
I am muted.
No, your speaker.
Time is 7:00 p.m. I'd like to call the regular Finance Personnel Committee meeting to order. Myself, Mike Capper is present.
Danny Kern present.
Chris Dubek.
And joining us is
Chuck Schwartz, MSA.
Public comment. Nobody here for public comment on agenda items. We can go through the minutes of January. Good. Public comment.
Just check.
Go through the January 10th meeting minutes.
I had a question. Was there a motion or was there a on the shortfall cash flow was supposed to be used from TID for, or was that just a consensus?
That was a consensus here, but then a motion at the board.
At the board, okay. Danny Kern make a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
First and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Library report. Christina. Hello.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Good. Okay, just to give you an update on for 2024, some little bit of changes at the library that you might not see from the outside looking in, but our friends of the library, with the funds from the silent auction they raised last fall, they have said they are going to give us enough money for our support staff, our library staff, to one of them to attend a conference this fall. So it probably will be Meg, who has been at the library, I think 8 years now, will attend a library conference. So it'll be wonderful to have her go out and learn some things from these conferences and bring those topics back to the library. And then we have hired a new staff with our increased finances. And that staff person is Patty Foster. She's working about 12 to 14 hours a week. And she is just started last week working at the front desk. Patty is a native of Somerset, so we're happy to have her. She worked for AARP for quite a while, so she'll have some experience dealing with our older community members there. And then she has made it so that now that Daniel doesn't have to work at the desk quite as much, this last week, he went to the conferences at the elementary school and engaged with some families there. One of the families even remarked to him, "Oh yeah, I forgot that we have a library in Somerset." So that was good that he reminded them. And then he also went to a classroom at St. Anne and read to the kids there. So that was good. So just a little bit of update what we're doing with some of the funding that you guys give us. And then of course we have our usual programs that are included in your packet here too. The Cran Art Gallery, more geared towards preschoolers, where they can see their artwork showcased at the library for a while. We are once again trying a kids book club. We haven't had a lot of attendees for those in the past, but this time we do have 8 kids already registered. So we're happy about that. And it'll take place in our maker space. We'll be making Dragon Claws as kind of a spin-off of the book. And then in February, for this first couple of weeks of February, we're doing a program that some libraries do. It's called Blind Date with a Book, which we've actually taken the books and wrapped them so you can't see the cover. So you're picking a book based on kind of the genre and a 1-sentence description of it. And the idea behind that is to get us out of our comfort zones of what, those certain authors that we're always reading. And so that community members can maybe listen to new stories with new perspectives and just step into a different world in that way. So those are some of the things we're working on right now. Of course, we're always open to feedback too.
Feedback I got is good programs that are going on right now and a lot of good things coming out of the library. Keep up the good
Thanks.
work.
Thanks, Donnie.
For sure. So what is the age for that kids book club?
It's mainly I want to say 8-year-olds and up. We do have a 6-year-old that's going to attend. So I think we try not to make it super academic, just try and talk about the characters of the book since they've already read the book at home. They come ready to discuss it and just have fun with kind of spinning off reading and so it doesn't feel like school. Nothing against school, but
Thank you so much, Christina.
Yep.
Impact fee report.
We have not collected any so far this year.
Department head meeting report.
We have not had a meeting.
When was the last one, you think?
Last month they just discussed whether they was gonna have one this month.
Budget time. Joel's at the Chiefs conference this month, so typically we have it today, but he was gonna, so it's postponed another week.
2024 budget and to date and fund balances.
What's the village board other expenses that came up there in January? Is that still in here? 30% of the total. Do you know what that was for?
That would be, what the county collecting the tax bill. I'll have to look at that. It's an annual payment of,
Is that the one that kind of comes out the first part of the year? Or?
yeah,
I was just trying to remember what that was.
yeah. I'll look before the end of the meeting and get back to you.
How about the legal tax?
That is when,
What did you say, Chris? I'm sorry.
illegal tax. That's when, somebody is either taxed that shouldn't have been taxed, or their assessed value was incorrect, which is what happened on this one. The assessor put the value from the neighbor's property onto their property, and it's in new construction, so theirs should have been just land, and the other one should have been land and improvements. So we'll do a charge back to the state of Wisconsin in the fall to get that money back. Gotcha. Thank you. But it has to be paid,
31,000 in rescue other expenses.
So January and July, I pay half of the fire rescue budget to the fire rescue, so that's half of their budget.
Okay, so the fire department other expenses and the rescue are two separate ones for a total of because you got one for 63, one for 63 and one for 63 under rescue other and one for fire department other.
Yep. So they get half of their budget in January and half of their budget in July.
They get paid dues. How often do they get
July?
Just in
The
July.
annual payment. Yeah. We get the money from the state and then turn around and submit it to them.
No revenues come in yet, though.
Not really.
waiting for you guys to make a motion.
No motion.
No motion.
Yeah.
Discussion possible recommendation, impact fee needs study. Wow.
Yeah, so we had the two proposals from MSA and Ellers. I talked to both, obviously Chuck, and I talked with Josh. Mike, I talked to you a little bit about it. Andrew and I have had quite a bit of discussion on it. We feel like the best thing moving forward here, what's gonna give the village the best product is having MSA do the project that, you know, the needs, so that they would identify, you know, let's just go with water. At what time in a population do we need another well? When do we need another water tower? So you figure those things out, and we're at 3,000 people now. Well, you're gonna need a new well, when it's 9,000. And have them figure that out. Obviously, they know quite a bit of what's been going on, what we're gonna need in the future. Obviously, the library's gonna need, they're gonna need to expand sometime in the future. We don't know when. But that's all population driven. So I think we're gonna get a better product if we use MSA for kind of the technical scope of this. And then having Ellers do the financial piece of it, come up with their spreadsheet and figure out the user fee or impact fee, you know,
Do the
per,
modeling,
yeah. So that we have, I would say, similar documents that we're looking at. I'm very familiar with Ellers documents, and I think everybody will, as you remain on the board, you'll become accustomed to those. Not that MSA is gonna look really weird or different, but that's what MSA does the technical things. Ellers does numbers, and I just think that if we're gonna do this, our best product's gonna be having them work in unison with each other and provide a good document for the village. So
A few weeks ago, I sat with Ellers, with Josh Lowe and Sean, and I believe it was John that put together the proposal. And John wasn't available that day, but as far as what we discussed, were MSA did their portion of it and Ellers did their portion, and they kind of worked together on it. Josh or Sean didn't know if John would be able to do that. Is John saying that Ellers can do that portion of it now?
if I can jump in here, Bob. I've talked to Josh, and, you know, we talked about how this would work type of thing, and, we kind of agreed that we'd take the lead, do the bulk of the reporting, and then bring them in on the financial modeling, because, yeah, we could do it, it wouldn't look exactly the same, and then the first time you wanted to do something and take out money, they would have to kind of recreate and do those sorts of things. So I already forgot your question, but it was, so they would be working, we wouldn't be working with John out in, in Milwaukee, we'd be working with Josh and Sean. Yeah.
Okay, sure. So then they're comfortable working with you on that, with the numbers, once we've gotten dialed in what needs to be done.
Yeah, yep.
What's that gonna be as far as a cost scenario though? Is that something we gotta send it back out to rebid on? Or is it something, cause right now we're talking 19, are they saying, well, it's gonna be another $10,000 to run the numbers, or?
I don't think so. It'll be close. I would guess our number might come down a little bit, and then, theirs would be, I think if you expect, I expect it would come in less than 25,000 for the two of us. But, we haven't quite divvied up and draw the line because we haven't really kicked it off, but that's more or less, and, that I'm thinking how this would work.
yeah, and Josh didn't think that their costs would be exuberant, and he really couldn't answer to John's quote, because he said, that came from him, but he said, I do know they're very busy down there. So if they wanted to pass on the work, which is why we got such a high quote from them.
37.5, I think it was. 37.5. I'm definitely all for.
But isn't it's 19,000, isn't that the, you know, everything right up to, you know, making the kind of the recommendation here, or am I missing something? Because
Well, if they do it, or we, you know, if you would hire them, we'd still incur costs above the 37.5 because we need to provide all their numbers and everything else.
But if we hired you,
Yeah, but.
at 19, we'd have everything, all the numbers here. I'm trying to figure out.
But the first time you had to have them do something or run some modeling or whatever, they'd have to recreate kind of what we put together for numbers.
Mhm.
And so that you would incur costs at a later date. I mean, yeah, we could do it all and provide you a document. But it's better if Ellers is involved in the front end, just to kind of get everything coordinated. That makes sense, Donnie.
My fear with Eller's proposal was they were gonna be highly reliant on MSA. And MSA is gonna be doing a bunch of work. MSA doesn't work for free. Obviously, so I was afraid,
Right.
well, that 37 is gonna go to, you know, $50,000 and coming back, answering questions to the finance and the village board to say, why did this 37,000 turn into $50,000? Well, you know, MSA had time on this to identify project costs. So I guess the motivation behind this is to give the finance and personnel the best transparent cost this is going to be relative. So Chuck alluded to 25,000. Josh said, you know, our costs are gonna be minimal. So, and he agreed, we would rely heavily on MSA. So,
And by collaborating too, you know, because, you know, I think, you know, puts you in the best position to, if you have to defend it, you know, because, you know, builders obviously don't like to pay more than they want, you know, they have to. And, you know, by collaborative effort here, just, you know, presumably you'll have a better, more defensible document, should you need to defend it down the road. Because you already had, I think your 2010 one, was that challenged, I believe?
The one before that.
One before that was?
Mhm.
I think it's important to get it going, and I think you guys taking the lead is important, and I'm working with Ellers on it.
I don't, oh, go ahead, sorry.
And yeah, I think if we were to approve this at the full village board next week, what would your turnaround time be for your portion of it, which is the majority of the?
You know, probably 60 days or something. I think I had a date of here of July 7th, so that's.
I was hoping to move that up a little bit. I was hoping.
Yeah, you know, a lot of it though, you know, we have to get information from the fire department, we have to get information from this library. You know, there's other pieces too, you know, and then also we're gonna need your feedback once we put together an initial document. So I'm hesitant to overpromise and say, yeah, we'll have something, you know, we'll do our best.
It could be the May or June board meeting.
Yeah, but you know,
Where you
I'd
have a
under promise and over deliver is what I'm hoping here. So, you know, I'd like to have this completed by July 7th, but I'll do my best to kind of move that up and try to get it to you in July, you know, June or something like that. That's, you know.
And May 21st would be, May 14th would be the board meeting. June 11th would be the village board, June 18th would be the board meeting. Is that a fair, you know, because we have to take this to the board, and then we also have to have a public hearing under statute, right?
Mhm.
So that need to be reviewed by the board prior to the public meeting, or?
Yeah, you'd want your say before we just throw it in front of the public, you know?
No, I would just say, we say, okay, this is what, and now it's gotta go to the public, and if the public comes in and they say, well, this sucks, right? Then it's gotta go back to the village board, or does it go to the public first, and they have their say and they say, well, you know, this is what we heard and this is what we approve, you know. I just wanna make sure we're not putting the cart in front of the horse and, you know, which is coming first, chicken or the egg,
Well,
right?
it's kind of like the comp plan, right? Where, you know, it's presented to you folks. You kind of have a consensus, you provide the feedback, it gets massaged a little bit. You put it out in front of the public. And then based on that feedback, maybe you tweak it a little bit from the public, or you just, you know, you rubber stamp it and move on. You know, these impact fees go to future development, not necessarily your residents, so.
But all the major development's gonna start, you know,
Yeah.
lion's share of it this year. You know, you know.
So it's a good time to do this
Yes,
right
It's a great
now,
I
time
agree.
to do it. Yeah.
because we don't have a whole lot of lots available right now. And I'd be more concerned if, there's 135 vacant lots. And we're missing a big portion.
So I totally agree. We're talking months here. I wanted to move it up like months so we can get this thing started to end of this year, because I know that it's a major need.
And Chuck, you said that 60-day mark, you think you can have something? Do you think that May meeting would be 90 days away? Do you think you'd have something by that May meeting, and that way we could do the public input after that and then have it approved in the June meeting?
So a draft by the May meeting,
Which
I think that's
14th of May, and then we could have, something by, you know, before the June meeting.
We
So
should
that
have
we
it
can-
finalized in June, the June meeting.
yeah. No, that's good. Just, you know, we got plans to finalize and get out the bids and some of those things. It's just kind of that.
And we don't want you to rush it. We don't want you to, you know, do
Yeah,
a shoddy job.
but I'll keep you updated on the progress here, but yeah, I can,
Oh, shoddy work, Chuck.
No shoddy work, Chuck. Wanna make a
no
motion?
additional shoddy work.
Perfect.
So we say 19,000, how's that gonna get paid then? We're gonna put that into the needs assessment then, and then like spread it out over, because I know you had mentioned that. Are we gonna spread that out over a period of time?
I believe we can pay for it out of the impact fees we've already collected. I'm gonna double check with the auditor when she's here.
Will that include Eller's numbers too, or just,
It makes sense that you would be able to.
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve MSA's recommend approval of MSA's professional agreement, 19,000 under this scenario with the change to move it up to, I believe, May 14th for proposal, right?
For draft.
For a draft.
And what about the others portion? Just read on that.
We don't have that yet at this point in time.
We're just.
We'll get this ball rolling on this and we'll approve the rest later.
I'll second that.
First and a second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Alright,
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Chuck.
will you change that then for the board meeting, for the draft on this,
So you just want me to add,
PSA?
just want me
Yeah,
to
with
add
the
the
rough
May draft by May?
May 11th. Will that have to go to the Public Works for it, or the finance?
The third Tuesday is May 11th.
Second Tuesday.
Board is on the third Tuesday.
May 21st,
Oh, I'm looking at it. 21.
May 21st.
That's right. We pushed everything ahead for this
This
one.
month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Look at that, I get an extra week.
Yeah.
Well, actually, will you have it to the public finance on the 15th? So I'll give you 4 more days.
That way.
And then, we do another report for, at the next board meeting for you, do updates.
Yep, absolutely.
Can you put that on the full village board? Maybe
It's
for
on your own.
in closed session, an update,
Oh, what?
an update for Bob to give the full board an update again.
Economic development.
Sure.
Yep.
All right, thank you, guys.
Bye now.
Have a
Have
good
a
rest
good
of
night.
your day. Discussion possible recommendation 2024 tuber user fee. I had asked Chief Tripcheck to put together a proposed budget for the tubing, tube rental businesses, whatever the IRBs, to see what that true cost would be as opposed to what it was 20 years ago, what they were paying. And it went from,
Are these actuals from last year?
no, this is a proposed budget for this year, for the Friday, Saturday, and some Sundays, just during the busy season of where you would need an extra guy out to handle the tubing. And it came in about, what was the other one, 8,000 before?
Mhm.
8,000, this one is $4,408, so about half of what it used to be. And I think our ordinance should reflect actual costs, not just pie in the sky user fee. So this was based off of my recommendation to review it.
The user fee will be used to cover the cost of enforcement of village ordinances, refuge removal, maintenance of village property. So you have one portion of that in there, which is the actual policing of the site.
Yeah,
So
the maintenance of the property was always handled in picking up garbage. So back when this thing first started in 2001, the tubing establishments used to pay for the extra officers, and there'd be 3 guys down at the Rapids Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And there was pit toilet, or porta potties that the village put down there, but the tubing places paid for.
I think that's a separate, was there a separate agreement on that? I don't know. So would that be written in ordinance then?
Well,
That's
that's what it got added to the tuber user fee over the years, because I was the one who started this in 2001, and it used to cover the officer wages, cover the porta potties, and then cover the dumpster garbage removal down there. And then since then, it's morphed into something else where
Morphed into this.
where the officer that the tubing places were paying for was working till 4 in the morning and taking care of bar fights and domestics and not helping with the river. So this was a proposed thing of the tubing places still covering their portion when the tubers would be out on the water. And since the tubing places are now paying for the toilets and coordinating those.
Is that in the agreement for that, or we're
There's
just
no
saying
agreement.
There's no
Huh?
agreement for it.
There's no agreement.
They just have been
took
paying
over.
for the garbage down there, garbage removal down there, and the porta potties for years, and then they were getting charged way more than they should have for the officers.
I know last year I was down a couple of times, and I'm not saying that it was the tubers that created this, or that there was, trash and stuff that was down there that we had to have our public works guys go down and clean up. So I can't, and I'm not saying it was the tubers' responsibility or the tubing company's responsibility. I'm not trying to put that onus on them. But is there a concern with running, this just at our police force wages, or is there some consideration that was that 8,700 that was reviewed last year, Andrea? Is any of that given into consideration from prior years as just wages of the police force, or is it anything for other areas?
8,700 has been the fee
Since 2001.
since the start.
Since
And it
2001.
was for the enforcement of the ordinances, which is the police, the garbage and maintenance of the parks.
And since
So
then,
that's considering public works staff.
Mhm.
That's how it's always been. So I talked to Bob about it and he said he didn't really feel that there was any need to add anything on for his department.
Any idea what the cost of trash removal was last year?
We don't.
The tubing places pay for it.
companies pay for it.
So the 80,
Separate to the vendor?
They contract with
Oh,
whoever,
okay,
yeah,
okay,
and
just as
then
long as.
also
it's
the
taken care
porta potty.
the porta potties used to get paid, the village would have them down there, the village would pay for them, the tubing place establishments paid the village as part of their fee, and when I started this in 2001, it was any money that wasn't used for law enforcement purposes or garbage got returned back to the tubing places.
Okay.
Over the years, it changed to them paying $8,700 and not getting anything back for any unreturned monies or anything like that. So that's why I just wanted to address it, because when I was a tubing establishment owner, I didn't think it was right then, and I can't sit here and say that I think it's right now for overcharging businesses for services that they're not asking for and they're having to pay for.
Right,
And
it should
if-
reflect real costs.
Right, it's no different than if there's a bunch of bar fights at Rendezvous or Sportsman's, and then we're sending them a bill for it. It should be what the businesses are asking for above their regular needs,
So
in my humble opinion.
that's I'm fine with that. If we looked at it from the standpoint of, these are just the wages to put the manpower out there. This has nothing to do with putting the squads out there, to putting the gas in the vehicles and the like on that. So there still needs to be some kind of consideration given into that as an additional cost as well.
According to Joel, he would have that second officer out anyways. So this person during those hours, busy tubing, their main focus will still be on the river and tubers and.
So he'd have a second person out, but not dedicated to anything but or just in case of.
Whether or not, he's gonna have two people out on a weekend regardless. So if the second person, and you'll have to ask Joel this, but if it's bad weather and nobody's out on the river, I don't know, do they send that second guy home and then the tubing places don't pay for that? I don't know.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm kind of,
But I also don't feel right charging those guys $8,700 for services they're not asking for and they're not receiving.
So then it looks like we would need to update this ordinance to reflect.
I don't believe it's an ordinance. I
It's
think it's
a
just a
user
user
fee.
fee that's established in the ordinance
Mhm.
on an annual basis. And what are you recommending it be then? It's right now, the hours report here showing $4,408 is what it would be for additional cost associated with patrolling the parks during the tubing season. Are you looking to maintain that, or is there some consideration to putting a little additional in there, because you have other individuals saying, well, there's still wear and tear on the vehicles and stuff like that. But if you're saying, and that's why I'd have to talk to Joel about is Joel, if he's gonna have that other person out, then that argument's moot. If he's got two people out, then the wear and tear is
Gonna happen regardless.
I totally agree with you not charging over it. I just don't know what that right number really is,
Say if it was the way it was intended, and say it would drop from 8,700 to even 4,500 or 5,000, and then there's an agreement that if it's a bad tubing season and they're not out and they're not being utilized for tubing, if there's money back in their kitty, then they get it returned to them at the end of the year. That was the intent of
Then
it.
you would have to change the ordinance, because the ordinance does not say anything. I've never refunded anybody tubing the user fee.
So a couple of years.
The river patrol wages, yes. but.
Originally, it was 8,700 because you had three different groups in, right?
Yep,
Well, actually, it was 4 groups, right? When the original ordinance was set and the
4
number.
businesses, yes.
So if it was 8,700 and 4 businesses, it would be roughly about $2,200,
Mhm.
$2,225 per business, right?
Yeah,
But then one business closed, right?
Mhm.
Which means you got less tubers, but you still got the same amount of patrol, right?
Mhm.
So that's where the 8,700 stayed in.
Yeah.
But, and now you had 8,700 shared by 3,
that's 2,900.
which was 2,900. And last year, one more business didn't, participate. So then it was, $4,350 for the 2 businesses, which is a little extreme for those 2 businesses, but, and that's where the chief said that he didn't feel the need for that much in patrolling if you have 2 businesses, but if we got 5 businesses down there, and we got a ton more people coming down, why don't we put it per business? Why don't we just set that,
You gotta
rather
try to
than
figure out what
setting it, saying,
the true cost is.
right, but additional companies would drive additional costs, right? So if you said it was 2,900 and all of the other companies were okay with it, why couldn't we just say, if you're gonna operate a tubing business here, it's $2,900 in order to get the fee? And then if there's 5 guys, then there's 2,900. There's more work on this end, there's more work on that end.
That doesn't mean there's gonna be more tubers. Tubing has been on the decline over the last.
Well, I don't disagree, but it could be on the rise too. Nobody's gonna know
But
that.
then you evaluate that yearly and see like, okay, we ended up having to have more river patrol or less river patrol, and I just don't feel it's right to charge businesses over and above what they're actually receiving for services.
And the tubing business, I don't disagree with that. The tubing businesses were okay with $2,900, right?
You're guessing that.
Well, they were not okay with 4,350.
Right.
They were okay with
I
2,900.
think I was in the 2,900 group and I wasn't okay with that because I know that wasn't $8,700.
Right, but we're not talking about your conversation here today. We're talking about those individuals that are.
Yeah,
that
well,
are-
you're talking for the tubing establishments. I'm talking back when I was one of the tubing establishments, I wasn't okay with it. That's why, even though I'm out of it now, and I have no conflict of interest, I don't think it's right to overcharge businesses for something they're not asking for. And we're forcing a
Maybe
tax.
we need to invite the businesses to this meeting to discuss
And
what they're asking for.
I'd be fine with that as well. And I know I had sent them an email that we talk about it in spring, and maybe we table this till next month's meeting.
Yeah, I'm okay with tabling. I mean, it's good discussion that we had on it, but I don't disagree with that philosophy, tacking them for 4,300 last year. That's kind of what the ordinance was, said, that's what it was, and now we're having this conversation now. So, having a discussion with them at the table here would be beneficial, because I'd like to hear what they say. Some of them might not even consider opening this year, might not, hey, we're good. You never know.
Would you invite your next personnel and finance
And
committee
I
meeting?
will also make sure Joel is in attendance as well.
That'd be great.
That would be fantastic. All right, so let's move right along then. New business discussion, possible recommendation guidelines for meeting attendance by the building inspector. So when the building inspector put in his new ordinance change that got passed at the last month's village board meeting.
Yeah.
So in the ordinance, it says basically the building inspector shall show up to every planning commission meeting. For years, Brian Wirt never went to any of the planning commission meetings. So when Tony's taken over for Brian, he put it in there that he gets paid $250 for every planning commission meeting that he has to drive to, or $150 for every one that he has to show up by Zoom. There's some of the planning commission meetings. The last one, I think, lasted 4 minutes, and we didn't need anybody. The other one was, the month before, was 3 or 4 minutes. Either way, we didn't need him. So I'd like to see something in that ordinance change that we request him in writing or whatever, in a reasonable time period, so many days, whether, you know, like 5 days before a planning commission meeting or a village board meeting, if we're requiring him to that we actually request him in writing, so that way we're not paying $150 to him by Zoom, just for zooming into a meeting that he doesn't need to be there, or driving his hour and a half or whatever and paying him $250 to sit in a real life meeting, an in-person meeting that he doesn't need to be there. Because right now the ordinance states that he has to be at every planning commission meeting.
So I don't have the ordinance in front of me, but we'll need to draft a change then, right? Is what you're
Yes.
proposing? That makes sense to me.
Well, I would recommend that it go to the full board, this discussion go to a full board, so they're cognizant of of what, is brought up, is that ordinance change now is driving an additional cost, to the tune of 24, well, if you showed up at every meeting, 250
250
times,
times 12.
yeah.
So and I think we could do that, but does this committee want to make?
$3,000, so we make a recommendation to put forth the change in the ordinance at the next meeting? Or do you want to hold that off until you get all the ordinance changes that you were talking about? Because we were supposed to bring that up tonight too, on possible ordinance changes at the Public Works, and we never did.
I think.
Do you want to change the ordinance now?
I think we can't change it now, but we can make a recommendation to.
Well, no, I'm saying recommend to change to the board this month.
That, yes, that we would give it a 5-day notice and via email prior to any planning commission meeting or village board meeting, that we would require his attendance to be present, otherwise we wouldn't need him there.
Motion?
That would be my motion, but if, I just wanted a discussion first, since it's a lot easier to do talking about it at committee level.
Right.
More freely, is 5 days sound fairly reasonable?
Yeah, sure. What,
Well, so planning commission meetings are Thursday night. So could we say by 4 days, by Monday, by noon? That gives
That's less
Tuesday,
than 5
Wednesday,
days.
Thursday, that's 3 days, right?
Mhm.
Because there could be things that
Well,
show
she
up.
puts the agenda out 5 days in advance, so then
I would.
that would be,
Could we make a recommendation that the building inspector would need to be determined at the point of the time the agenda has been
Right.
presented?
right.
That way,
Right, because he gets
'Cause if
24.
you put any more deadlines on us, we're gonna be so confused.
right, but if you keep it consistent, it's like, well, if are you telling me that we need to have the building inspector, then it'll be noted on there, building inspector requested, and it's on the agenda, and everybody,
So up
'cause if you
to
move,
24 hours in advance it could be up to 24 hours, which is,
I would just
it is
say,
what it is.
upon written request in the, on the agenda.
Mhm.
And that's all you need to have it at. The agenda is noted in the statute and ordinance, right?
That's why I like being able to discuss having the discussion here. Is that your motion, Donnie?
Well, you started a
I
motion.
didn't start a motion.
You said that is my motion. 5-day notice prior to meeting.
You can rescind your motion.
I'm gonna rescind my motion and let Donnie make the motion.
My motion is to have the building inspector be required to amend the ordinance, to recommend amending the ordinance to require the building inspector present for planning commission meetings upon written request in the agenda of either the planning commission or board.
depending on which meeting. we
Yep. So it could be planning commission or board meeting.
I'll second that.
First and second, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect, thank you.
Does that work for you, Andrew?
I'm gonna play it back.
No, but I mean, the intent of it is for you guys to make sure that it's,
It'll just be noted on the agenda item, building inspector request.
yeah, because then you can reference back to the agendas as to when he was actually requested to be there.
So, just for discussion, there's sometimes we might want him more in person, can we, and maybe this is a conversation with Tony, you know, like, if we ask you to come in person, can you come in person, or if it's not as big of a deal, do you just zoom in? Do we want to request it by either Zoom or in person, or just keep that more
I
informal?
think we'll just keep it informal.
Mhm.
At this point in time, it really comes down to if his presence is needed. By that time, there'll be a communication between him and the chair of that committee, you know, to decide whether or not he needs to be in present or if he can be informally over Zoom.
Discussion, possible recommendation, municipal prosecuting attorney agreement for Deanne Cole. Something
This was approved last month, wasn't it?
it was kind of approved, but then there was some question on which municipal attorney we were discussing. There was 4 abstentions for some reason, like there was a conflict of interest, and there definitely should have been a conflict. Nobody should have abstained, so there was 3 yays and 4 abstentions. So it's on our agenda, so hopefully we can make a recommendation to move forward with.
To answer the question, the motion that was made at the board meeting, according to Attorney Paul, was not an actual passing motion. Because you only had 3 out of 7. Whether they were abstentions or not, you only.
So
had 3.
abstention is a nay?
Apparently, that's what he said. So she was not appointed at the last meeting.
So we had the Angela Olson in.
Angela Olson is still the prosecuting attorney.
Angela Olson was in last month at $2.50 an hour.
She started at February 1st. It went up to 250.
She's be in this month,
Mhm.
next week.
But they postponed.
Make a motion to approve the agreement for Deanne Cole.
Recommend approval.
Recommend approval.
For a second,
I'll second.
When's the effectiveness on this? I was just looking for it.
Well, the board will have to approve it.
So upon approval of the board, is that what it is?
Yep.
Okay.
further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Discussion, possible recommendation, savings plan for future fire truck. I think this is something I asked at the joint board meeting, because Travis's future needs, I think, are $1 million for a truck.
$500,000.
Well,
We only got half of it.
the truck is gonna cost $1 million.
I know,
and
he
our
wants $1
portion-
million, but he ain't getting it for much.
Yeah, our portion will be.
If you're
So-
watching Travis, you know, I support you, but
And-
halfway through.
In,
So this is what the capital improvements fund is for. There is a line item for the fire equipment. There's roughly $60,000 in it right now. You guys budgeted 5,000 to be added this year. So we're continually putting money aside for fire equipment.
so if it's 5,000 this year, there's 60,000, but in 5 years, we need 500,000.
Well, you guys
That's
put
why-
5,000 in there. It was 30.
Right, but that's why I wanted it on
changed
this
it to
agenda, Andrew, you understand that, so we can have this discussion, so we all know going into budget season next year, what we need to do and not just do it.
We are, as staff, we're fully aware. That's why I tried to put money aside, so
It's
It is what it
ongoing-
is,
Ongoing
and-
discussions,
yeah.
you know.
What would
And
you
if-
recommend then for us, the village board, putting?
Can I ask a question?
yep,
Under this discussion is, you know, knowing that we're going to need this in the period of time,
mhm.
is there a different potential funding mechanism that we could earmark for a specific for this amount?
Not really. Unless you get a grant. if
Well, what
you
I was saying
apply
is
for a
that
grant.
you got, that $6, fire, charge on water, on
And
the
that
water
goes to
bill.
the water utility.
But couldn't we earmark $1?
That you should ask the PSC that, because that's part of they regulate water rates.
No, but I'm saying, I'm not talking about the water rates. I'm
Right,
saying
but it's
there
a
could be-
water utility charge.
No, I understand it,
The
but could there be
fire-
another thing that could go under the utility bill aspect? That's everybody that's hooked up on that, we're saying, we're putting this towards the.
I can't answer that question, Donnie. I don't know if that's even something that's allowed. That would have to go to somebody who's
So would,
better
since
aware
Amy
of
does,
charges on utilities.
Amy does water and sewer, would she check with the the
She
PSC?
could, I don't. Yeah.
Well, I was just looking at, different type of funding mechanisms,
Right.
rather than we sit down every year and try to fight for that.
Right,
Is that we can say, okay, let's just earmark like
Mhm.
$1 per, household or whatever, because that's pretty much what it comes down to, is $1 per household. There's
Mhm.
1,300, that's $1,300, that's $10,000 a year, it's not 10, and if we have extra money in our budget from state kickbacks or whatever the case may be, or, different funding mechanisms that we can add to that, at least we're putting aside a little bit to cover our fire, and it's not spent, other municipalities, other states and stuff like that, they take a nickel or a dime and they say, this is earmarked for a specific thing, and it's in their legislation. And I was wondering if that's something that we can do, because right now, we have 1,300 residents in the village that we can actually put a number on and say, and as we get more, hookups, then there's more revenue to help offset.
I don't know if that's allowed or not.
But is that
So that's
something you can
something that
check?
we'll have to look into.
That's something you can check with Amy
And
on.
there is nothing wrong with going to the bank and borrowing the money and then paying it back from that capital improvements fund. It's not, you can borrow smaller amounts of money for a short
Mhm.
term.
Mhm.
Yes, you pay interest, but it definitely doesn't need to be, you don't have to have the full amount of money on hand at the time of purchase.
Right, but this would help close that gap, and that's where I'm saying is that, starting to forward think, like he was saying, if it's possible, could you see if there's a different type of funding mechanism that we could look at? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think everybody's gonna argue maybe over $1, but they know that it's specific to covering our fire engines, especially, into the future.
Yeah,
So table this till our next month's meeting, and then you can report back what you find out from Amy and the PSC. Does that work?
Yeah.
Thank you. Discussion possible recommendation municipal bond deposit schedule, proposed increase. And where did this, I saw it, but I'm guessing this came from either the court or the
it
chief.
came from the court.
From the court.
Yeah.
And
She just gave me the two that, or the handful. I don't
so that
remember.
animals running at large,
Yeah.
first violation, second violation, third violation. First goes from $35 to $92.50. Second violation goes from $60 to $124. Third violation goes from $85 to $187. Tobacco for juveniles or drugs. Drug paraphernalia possession of or 17 plus goes from $388.60 to $488.60. Possession of marijuana goes from $388.60 to $488.60.
Is there even such a thing anymore
What?
in the state of Wisconsin?
It's still,
Is there?
still in
Possession of
marijuana, Wisconsin.
It's not legal.
Still in Wisconsin.
Yeah, it ain't legal halfway across the country, and they still have no problem with it anymore. I didn't even know if they're even enforcing it. Do they still enforce that stuff?
They don't enforce the laws anymore.
Not the marijuana,
They,
It's still on the books.
but that's
so
juvenile.
it still needs to be
yeah,
enforced.
I know,
You
I
need a
know,
motion?
I know, yeah.
make a motion to approve the recommended, proposed changes as announced.
Is there a second?
Second,
First and second, further discussion, all in favor?
I,
Aye. Discussion possible recommendation for table skirts and then the village seal and flags for on the walls. This is something I've been kind of wanting for years, long before I got on the board here. Well, even like the town of Somerset, they have a nice crest on the wall and not mailboxes and some cheap, you know, clock and it's City of River Falls, City of Village of Roberts. I think it just looks a lot more professional if you have like the skirting on front of the tables and.
I cannot find skirts for these tables, Mike. Besides the cheap
Well, if we can get a certain amount
Correct.
approved, I will be able to find skirts for it or find somebody to be able to make them. I just want us to look and be more professional. And that includes, did you look into like what our seal or anything? Did you talk to?
we don't have a seal. Are you
Well,
like
like,
the logo?
The logo for the,
I wasn't directed to ask anybody
Okay.
about a logo. Okay.
Tasia was going to, because the town of Somerset has a nice one, she was going to
I would
contact
think
them.
it's probably with flash, but
It's a wooden, it looks nice, it looks like a kind of,
Do we table this for further research then?
yeah. We
I
do
mean,
that or
You can
or put a
just, so you're
certain
saying,
dollar amount.
you're saying if you can find somebody to whip up skirts for a year, then you can come back with a cost to us and we know what it would be to approve it, right? And same thing with
and where the money's coming from.
the crest, would be as well, right? Because you'd be looking to put something back here and then just, yeah.
Yeah, something professional looking.
right. I like
Because
that.
Tasia's working on that, and then if you can get somebody, because if you can't find them, and he said he can, you know, probably get somebody, check with the Christ Lutheran gals that are
Quilters?
quilting, they could probably do something up for you rather reasonable for the village.
Just a question.
Portable stage skirting, Uline has it for $125. That was just a quick Google search, but where did you look?
I looked at the company that we bought the tables from, Mike.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
They attach. That'd be the trick.
Yeah.
Yeah, little plastic clips, so. All right, well, we can table that till next month as well and do a little more research and then discussion possible recommendation, scheduling evaluations.
We put our scale calendars up here, you can see, in March, we usually sat down and kind of had a,
Close.
I prefer to do it all together. I don't like the individual stuff. I think that worked out pretty good last year, speaking from experience.
Yeah.
Are you favor of just doing it the same way and we just kind of set aside like where we'd have to get together on an afternoon? And do it, would you be looking to do it? Let's see, the meeting would be the 19th.
For which meeting?
But village board meeting would be the 19th. I'm trying to remember when we did it before that. We wanted to have it done before the finance meeting, or do you want to do it the day of the finance meeting, which would be the 13th?
6th. Oh, the 13th.
13th.
So you're talking March 13th?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
To have it done by then.
Well, we would take it, we would have a session and we would go into closed session that day and we would do it, but I think we had to do it a couple of times last time. Well, why, I wonder why it was that.
I don't remember why. There were a couple scheduled. I don't know.
Conflicts and, yeah. Do you want to put aside a couple days and that way, you know, we can fill it in both of those and
Right.
what are you thinking, like the week?
Well, what is your schedule? Or adding another meeting in?
Or do you just wanna we had like an hour before,
It's gonna take more than an hour, mine. It usually took about an hour and a half to 2 hours per person. So we set aside, we had you, Bob, and,
The clerk,
huh?
the clerk.
And
Joel.
Chief, Joel, four, yeah, clerk and Joel, that's right. So we had basically,
Yeah, you get, I
so
wanna say you were here like the whole day. The
Well, we-
whole work day.
yeah, maybe we did start
And
at
then
8
you went
o'clock
to
and we took
lunch.
lunch and come back, yeah, so
Mhm.
it was, yeah, cause I know we burned the whole day on it.
Yeah,
well, if we did like. So public safety is on the 11th at 5:30. If you did a meeting before that from 2:30 to 5:30 and another one on the 13th from 2:30 to
We-
5:30,
we- huh?
the 11th and the 13th.
You're in the wrong year, I think.
For
Public
March,
Public
March.
safety's on the 13th.
yeah, and no, public
No.
safety's on the 11th, Monday.
Oh, I'm
Monday.
sorry, yeah, you're right, I apologize.
So if you did it on 3 hours before that meeting,
that works for you.
It would be a little tough. I work until 4 or 5 most days. Wednesday I could probably rearrange, but Monday that early is gonna be difficult. Could we try maybe 4? I could make that work, I think, on Monday.
4 on
So we have an hour.
4
and a
on
half.
Monday, so we have an hour and a half on Monday, and then what's the earliest you could do on the 13th?
I could probably do 2:30.
When?
On the
13th?
13th. Yeah.
It's not gonna give us much time.
Gotta talk fast,
Four,
gotta talk fast.
You did great. Where do we sign?
4.5 hours for 4 people,
Huh?
4.5
Well,
hours.
it took us
for
8
people.
for 4 people before.
Well, you could do Joel on the 11th, since he'll be here for public safety meetings.
That probably would make sense, and then we get squeezed. Yeah. I'm good,
Could you do 3:30 on Monday?
Yeah, I can squeeze that.
3:30 on Monday, and then 2:30 on Wednesday.
3:30, get 2 of them done, and 2 of them on Wednesday.
And then you have you at 5:30, right?
We just gotta put out a special notice for
Mhm.
that.
Yep, and I
go
can
to
do
closed
that.
session. And then, who took the notes on it before? I forgot.
We only do the,
Evaluation.
Who made the motion to
Open.
open and who made the motion to close,
Yeah.
go to closed session?
Yeah,
And, yeah,
right,
we just got that info to you and then you
Yeah.
wrote it up, okay.
yeah. But I'll be,
The reason I ask is because Chris and Doug aren't at this one, so
Right.
I didn't know how it was
Yeah.
handled, so.
yeah. Well, and I was here when you guys started,
Right, but I didn't
But I
know
think-
I didn't know the discussion on how you got
yeah.
the stuff on it.
Yeah.
So we're looking at the 11th at 2:30,
3:30.
3:30.
3:30 on the 11th?
Yeah.
And 3:30 until,
2:30.
2:30 on the, 3:30 to 5, 2:30, 3:30 to 5:30 on the 11th. And then it'll go into the regular public safety meeting at 5:30.
2:30 on the 13th then?
Or do we wanna try to move the public safety meeting back on Monday to like 6 or 6:30?
I would be okay with that, but we'd have to check with the other members. I have no idea what their schedules look like.
Why don't we just stick with keeping the schedule? And, if we can, I'd rather we're here, move our schedules than try to move somebody else's.
Agreed. So 3:30 to 5:30 on Monday, the 11th, 2:30 to 5:30 on Wednesday, the 13th,
Works for me.
for evaluations.
Mhm.
That's my motion.
I don't, okay.
We,
I don't know if we need a motion.
it is
I know I
for,
put
it says
on-
discussion, possible recommendation, so,
But it's really you guys.
yeah. All right.
If we need additional time after that, we can figure that out after.
Well, and the finance meeting is that
That's what I'm
night
saying.
at 7, so we could add it on at the end of finance. if needed.
So should we put a closed session at the end of finance then for, if necessary?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about time, because I
I
don't want
know.
to rush these, but,
That makes sense.
I'm with that.
That makes sense. Okay, future agenda items? Did you say something earlier that's something on public works that should have been discussed and wasn't, or something, some budget thing, or what was
Well,
it?
there's a possible referendum discussion that's gonna be coming up.
There was an ordinance that you were talking about, you didn't talk about it, public works or something. It was something with an ordinance change.
You said he was on the agenda, or you were gonna bring it up at Public Works and didn't get brought up.
Well, we were talking about all the outdated ordinances, and we didn't get it on our agenda, so I made a note of that.
We have a lot of ordinances to change,
Right.
which is good. What about, what did you just say about our future possible referendum?
So in the discussion that we're having with, under Public Works, with the court plan, that, there are gonna be, some things brought up here in the next couple of, months with regards to the parks. And, it was discussed by the committee, and it will be coming up probably next month and the month after with the court plan of possibly taking forth a referendum for improvements at our parks. You know, the village park will be a one question item, and the other parks, so fixing the pavilions, putting new pavilions up, specific pavilions, other ones, fixing the basketball courts, pickleball courts, and the like.
Interesting.
So, it was discussed about how much money we're gonna be talking about, and this, that, and the other, and at the end of the day, the referendum discussion come up, and I think that's gonna be something that would rather put to the taxpayers, is ask them for a referendum, on this if they wanna improve their parks. So,
So no future agenda items besides what was tabled?
move to adjourn.
Second, oh, that was a question.
First and second for the discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is no discussion after adjournment, is there? Can I rescind some? We had to make a point of order on one thing, when we were talking about there was a correction from last month, I think, when we were talking about the budget. Remember you had found that the money from,
Oh, yes,
did you want to note that?
yes. So the, street light outlay, and I don't, of course, I don't have
No, I
that.
did hear that. It
agenda.
was like 15,000 or 13 or 15,000.
Yep, and the other
30,000.
was, some of the lights on the trail that need to be moved. So it's still over,
The lights were on budget.
the lights were on budget
It was,
for,
the issue was that it was in the wrong bucket. It's
yeah,
supposed to come out of the trail monies
yes,
or the Churchill improvements, and not the budget movements for downtown.
Yeah.
Putting us over budget on that, and that was rectified.
yes.
That's the only thing I wanted to point out, that we were on budget with that, so.
All right, you wanna?
I still move for discussion.
You wanna rescind your rescission of your
No, I still move for adjournment. Mr.
first
Chairman.
I will second.
discussion? None, all in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned at 8:09 PM. Thank you guys. Productive.